If there were no guns, there would be no gun play, and it's that simplistic to me.
At 74 years old, Richard Dean Anderson remains a living legend. But have you ever wondered why he suddenly vanished from Hollywood spotlight? Famed for his iconic roles as MacGyver and Colonel Jack O'Neill in Stargate SG-1, he captivated audiences with wit and ingenuity. Yet at the pinnacle of his success, he made a choice that left fans and critics baffled. Was it a health concern, the pull of family life, or something far more profound? Join us as we uncover the real reason behind his surprising departure, an untold story that continues to intrigue millions. But behind the headlines, there's a deeper tale of sacrifice and resolve. Richard Dean Anderson was born on January 23, 1950 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, into a family that championed both discipline and creativity. His father, Stuart Anderson, worked as a teacher, instilling in his son a love for learning, while his mother, Jocelyn, was an accomplished artist whose passion for painting and sculpting offered a contrasting blend of imagination and self-expression. Growing up surrounded by traditional Midwestern values, Richard learned the importance of hard work, humility, and family bonds, principles that would later guide his decisions both on and off camera. Despite his eventual rise to fame as an actor, hockey was Richard's first great passion. Even as a young boy, he spent countless hours on the ice, braving the frigid Minnesota winters for a chance to hone his skills. Friends, coaches, and family alike recognized a fierce determination in him, the drive to push himself beyond his limits in pursuit of athletic excellence. Early mornings and late nights became routine, with practice drills and friendly matches shaping his dreams of becoming a professional athlete. For Richard, the roar of the crowd and the thrill of swift glides across the rink represented pure freedom. However, fate intervened when he suffered two severe injuries in quick succession, breaking both of his arms within weeks of each other. The setbacks were devastating. Not only did they derail his immediate aspirations of becoming a pro hockey player, but they also forced him to confront a sobering realization. The physical demands of high-level sports might be too risky if he wanted to maintain his long-term. While such a blow would leave most young athletes lost or embittered, Richard found a new pathway through his mother's artistic influence. Confined to lengthy periods of recuperation, he turned to creative outlets that not only kept him occupied, but awakened a different part of his soul. An innate sense of wonder and curiosity guided him toward theater, music, and writing. He discovered that storytelling and performing could fill the void left by hockey, providing a new arena where he could channel his competitive spirit more imaginatively. This growing passion led him to participate in local theater productions, where he began to develop a flair for adopting different personas and capturing the attention of an audience. Those early endeavors revealed a crucial blend of discipline and creativity. From his father, Richard had learned the value of punctuality, consistency, and respect for the craft, traits that would set him apart when he eventually stepped onto professional sets. From his mother, he inherited the gift of visualizing possibilities, a key component in the resourceful roles he would one day portray. While still nursing the wounds of a lost hockey career, he found solace and excitement in rehearsing lines, perfecting comedic timing, and immersing himself in dramatic scenes. It was during this transformative period that Richard realized he might possess enough talent and determination to pursue acting full-time. Though the journey ahead would be neither short nor simple, the stage was set for him to embrace a calling that he never anticipated. Little did he know that these shattered dreams would lead him to Hollywood's doorstep. With his dreams of professional hockey behind him, Richard Dean Anderson set his sights on a new horizon, Los Angeles. Arriving in the City of Angels with little more than ambition and a desire to perform, he quickly learned that breaking into the industry would demand grit, flexibility, and a willingness to seize any opportunity. Like countless hopefuls before him, Richard discovered that simply knocking on Hollywood's doors seldom opened them. He would need to carve out his path first. In those early days, he juggled a string of odd jobs to stay afloat financially. Street performing offered him a chance to hone his showmanship while also providing a source of much-needed income. Crowds passing along busy sidewalks got a taste of his flair for entertainment as he sang, juggled, or shared comedic routines. Anything that would earn him a few extra dollars. He later found unconventional gigs at places like marine method attractions, where he would not only entertain visitors but occasionally assist in stunts involving sea animals. Even Renaissance-style cabaret shows became part of his repertoire, pushing him to learn period dialects and theatrical gestures that stretched his acting range. These ventures, though far from glamorous, were crucial. They helped him cultivate confidence in front of unpredictable audiences and exposed him to a wide spectrum of performance styles. Resourcefulness became the key to survival. Even as he worked multiple jobs, he would rush to auditions, frequently waiting hours for a chance to read for a part that might never materialize. It was a cycle of determination and disappointment. Yet through it all, he remained buoyed by the belief that his next gig might just be his breakthrough. Eventually, small roles in local theater productions and minor TV commercials materialized. These appearances, while modest, introduced him to the world of scripted dialogue, camera work, and collaborative production. He soon set his sights on daytime television, where he managed to land bit parts in a variety of soap operas. Though each role lasted only a few episodes, or sometimes merely a single scene, his dedication stood out. Casting directors noted that he showed up prepared, took direction well, and could adapt quickly if a scene changed at the last minute. His consistency and eagerness paid off in 1976, when he landed a more substantial part as Dr. Jeff Weber on the widely watched General Hospital. For the first time, he held a recurring role that provided both a steadier paycheck and valuable experience. While the soap opera format was notoriously demanding, with rapid production schedules and limited rehearsal time, Richard thrived under the pressure. He treated each scene as an opportunity to refine his craft, learning from veteran actors and directors who had spent years navigating the high stakes of daytime television. Despite the incremental success, financial stability was still a distant prospect. Rent in Los Angeles was steep, and paying bills often involved juggling part of a paycheck from one job against the promise of future earnings from another. Yet these experiences bolstered the very traits he had inherited from his parents: a disciplined work ethic and a creative mindset that refused to give in to adversity. Bit by bit, people in the industry began noticing his versatility and genuine warmth on set. He was no longer the unknown Midwesterner scrambling for side jobs. He was a budding actor with untapped potential. Then, a single casting decision would propel him into the heart of American pop culture. When MacGyver premiered in 1985, it took television by storm, offering viewers a hero who solved problems with his intellect rather than brute force. At the center of it all was Richard Dean Anderson, infusing the role of Angus MacGyver with a sense of warmth, humor, and quick-thinking ingenuity that instantly struck a chord. In an era dominated by gun-toting action stars, MacGyver was a breath of fresh air, an adventurous do-gooder whose true weapon was his resourcefulness. And perhaps the iconic Swiss Army knife he always carried. The show's unique premise hinged on what fans lovingly dubbed MacGyverisms. Each episode challenged MacGyver to improvise brilliant solutions out of ordinary objects. Need to fix a broken car radiator in the middle of nowhere? Grab an egg from your grocery bag. Locked in a storage closet? Fashion a makeshift lockpick out of a paperclip and some chewing gum. These inventive hacks didn't just entertain, they inspired viewers to see everyday items in a new light. Before long, the term "to MacGyver" entered the cultural lexicon, signifying a clever, on-the-fly fix. People worldwide marveled at how a simple tool, combined with creativity, could save the day. Behind the scenes, the show's success brought an intense production schedule that tested cast and crew alike. Filming action-packed sequences, such as MacGyver's daring escapes or on-the-spot contraptions, demanded extraordinary care and timing. Anderson himself insisted on doing many of his stunts, keen to bring a sense of authenticity to each episode. This commitment came with physical challenges. Rehearsals for tricky maneuvers often stretched long into the night, and injuries, though minor, were almost inevitable. Anderson's willingness to push himself physically underscored his respect for both his audience and the realism the show strived to convey. Meanwhile, the writers worked tirelessly to keep the plots fresh. The challenge? Coming up with new MacGyverisms that were both plausible and visually compelling. Sometimes they drew inspiration from real-life survival techniques or problem-solving experiments, and Anderson would contribute his ideas. Indeed, part of what set MacGyver apart was the meticulous effort to ensure the audience believed in the hero's capabilities. This approach drew families around the TV, uniting parents and children in a shared admiration for MacGyver's brain-over-brawn ethos. Yet, the show transcended mere entertainment value. It carried an undercurrent of compassion and ethical responsibility. MacGyver rarely resorted to violence, preferring negotiation or inventive methods of defense. In the Cold War climate of the 1980s and the excesses of 80s action flicks, this more peaceful perspective was both innovative and refreshing. Audiences from all walks of life found a role model who championed problem-solving and empathy. The letters poured in from fans who spoke of how MacGyver's philosophy changed their approach to real-life challenges, and the network realized it had a phenomenon on its hands. The impact was global. MacGyver aired in over 70 countries, making Richard Dean Anderson a household name far beyond the United States. Merchandise, spin-off novels, and even the occasional educational endorsement testified to the show's sweeping popularity. For Anderson, it was gratifying to see how one character could spark genuine creativity and social awareness. Still, the relentless workload and the responsibilities of carrying a flagship series weighed heavily on his shoulders, a burden he knew he would one day have to set down. But even the most brilliant innovations eventually faced the toughest decision: when to step away. After MacGyver ended its run in 1992, Richard Dean Anderson found himself at a crossroads. Would the public ever see him as anything other than the charming, resourceful problem solver? Determined to avoid the pitfalls of typecasting, he sought a role that would challenge both his abilities and the audience's perception of him. That opportunity arrived a few years later with Stargate SG-1, where he stepped into the boots of Colonel Jack O'Neill, an experienced Air Force officer burdened by the emotional scars of past missions. The contrast between Angus MacGyver and Jack O'Neill could not have been sharper. One preferred clever improvisation to violence, while the other was a military man steeped in conflict. Yet both roles shared a core integrity that Richard brought to life with equal dedication. Launching in 1997, Stargate SG-1 quickly evolved into a phenomenon in its own right. Building on the original Stargate film's premise, the series explored distant galaxies and ancient mythologies through a massive interplanetary portal known as the Stargate. Richard's portrayal of Colonel O'Neill added a gruff charm and sardonic wit that grounded the show's futuristic setting. Beyond the lasers and aliens, fans found an ensemble of characters wrestling with moral dilemmas, often asking what it meant to defend Earth, negotiate with alien civilizations, and balance personal sacrifice for the greater good. At the center of it all, Colonel O'Neill's unwavering loyalty and leadership became a crucial anchor for the team. Compared to MacGyver, who mostly relied on his intellect and a bit of luck, O'Neill was a seasoned warrior who understood that sometimes tough decisions had to be made. This duality offered Richard a chance to explore a broader emotional range. As O'Neill, he grappled with guilt, regret, and the cost of military life. Critics praised his ability to convey world weariness alongside flashes of humor that showcased the character's human side. The funny characteristics, the unfailing. Meanwhile, viewers connected with O'Neill's vulnerabilities, seeing a man haunted by his past, but determined to protect his team and his planet. The immense popularity of Stargate SG-1 spawned a devoted fan community that thrived on forums, conventions, and marathon watch parties. Fans debated episodes, dissected the moral quandaries faced by the Stargate team, and cherished every quip from O'Neill. The show ran for 10 seasons, earning numerous awards and spawning multiple spin-offs, cementing its legacy as a staple of modern science fiction television. Throughout this period, Richard often acknowledged the debt he owed to fans who followed him from MacGyver to this uncharted cosmic territory. Their support, he noted, gave him renewed energy to keep pushing the boundaries of his performance. But the relentless schedule and physically demanding nature of the role took their toll. Days on set were long, packed with stunt work, elaborate costumes, and prosthetics for alien worlds. Filming frequently stretched into nights, requiring the cast to stay on high alert for back-to-back action scenes. Richard, in particular, found himself juggling not just the physical strain but also the weight of sustaining the series' center of gravity. Just as he had with MacGyver, he gave his all to maintain authenticity. A choice that would again raise questions about how far he was willing to push himself. Yet, no matter how bright the stars shine, personal life can lead even the best away from the limelight. The arrival of Richard Dean Anderson's daughter, Widely Quinn Anna Rose, in August 1998, marked a profound turning point in his life. After years of grueling shoots, celebrity events, and the constant push to keep a successful TV series on track, he suddenly found himself compelled to reassess what truly mattered. Despite his love for acting and the thrill of playing heroic characters, he felt the irresistible pull of fatherhood. When he held his newborn child in his arms, the cameras and scripts faded into the background. What had once driven him day in and day out, the excitement of new storylines and the camaraderie on set, no longer felt all-consuming. Wiley's birth awakened a different kind of responsibility, one that could not be postponed or delegated. Although Stargate SG-1 was thriving, Anderson began to feel the strain of maintaining a relentless filming schedule while also trying to be an attentive dad. Shooting days often stretched well beyond standard working hours, leaving him exhausted and, too often, missing important moments in his daughter's life. He had spent so many years giving everything to his characters, whether concocting elaborate contraptions as MacGyver or leading a high-stakes mission as Colonel Jack O'Neill, that he found himself wondering if he was giving enough to his child at home. This self-reflection eventually led him to a decision he never anticipated making: cutting back on his role in Stargate SG-1. Another factor was the physical toll that years of action roles had exacted on his body. Both MacGyver and Stargate SG-1 demanded lengthy stunt work and choreographed fights, and although he'd been careful, occasional injuries were unavoidable. Chronic aches, minor fractures, and the daily wear and tear compounded over time. What was once a testament to his commitment suddenly became a reminder that his physical resources weren't limitless. After all, there were no stunt doubles for fatherhood. He didn't want to be too weary or hurt to engage with Wiley's energetic world of first steps, bedtime stories, and backyard adventures. As he reduced his on-screen appearances, Anderson made no secret of the fact that his decision stemmed from a profound desire to be present in his daughter's life. In interviews, he spoke openly about the shift in priorities, describing fatherhood as the most meaningful role he could ever play. After years in the public eye, traveling to conventions and fielding questions about his characters, he began using his platform to discuss parenting and the importance of cherishing fleeting moments with loved ones. Fans who'd admired his on-screen heroics saw a different side of Richard Dean Anderson, a man whose commitment to family outweighed his pursuit of fame. Despite the questions from producers and the longing from fans to keep him firmly planted in the sci-fi universe, Anderson stood by his choice. His daughter's laughter, her first words, and the chance to guide her through life proved far more compelling than any storyline. It was a bold move, one that carried with it the risk of stepping away from the spotlight and losing some of the momentum he had built. But to him, that was a small price to pay. After all, no award or critical acclaim could compare to the unbreakable bond he was determined to forge with Wiley. But stepping away wasn't just about leaving a show, it was about forging a new path entirely. By the time Richard Dean Anderson formally concluded his run on Stargate SG-1, he had already begun distancing himself from the perpetual demands of television. Having reduced his role on the show to spend more time with his daughter, he decided it was time for a more definitive break. The series had propelled him to new heights of recognition and artistic fulfillment, but the relentless filming schedule, combined with his shifting priorities, reaffirmed his resolve to make a clean exit. It was a serene decision, born of a desire for a life unbound by constant public scrutiny. One of the defining moments of this transition came when he declined to participate in the 2016 MacGyver reboot. Despite offers to serve as a consultant or appear in a cameo, offers many believed he would jump at, Anderson chose to maintain a respectful distance. He was outspoken in his concern that any changes to the original formula might compromise the essence of a character who had meant so much to fans worldwide. In interviews, he made it clear that he did not want to endorse a version of MacGyver that strayed too far from the spirit of inventive problem-solving and compassion. Protecting the integrity of his iconic role mattered more to him than reliving past triumphs or receiving a short-term paycheck. That decision, while disappointing to some longtime admirers, underscored the principle that had guided him throughout his career: staying true to what feels right, both creatively and personally. With his public commitments winding down, Anderson retreated from the bustling energy of Hollywood. Choosing to settle on a quiet ranch, he cultivated a lifestyle far removed from the glitz of red carpets and the glare of paparazzi cameras. This shift afforded him the calm he had yearned for, time to focus on his health, savor simple daily routines, and devote himself to family. It was in many respects a return to the grounded values he had inherited from his Midwestern upbringing, where once there had been press tours and on-set obligations, now there were morning walks in nature, evenings spent around the dinner table, and the occasional trip with his daughter to explore the world on their terms. Over the years, Anderson also turned down various cameo roles and consulting offers tied to his previous work. He recognized that occasional guest appearances might boost ratings or provide a nostalgic thrill for fans, but he had already given so much of himself to those stories. Now his primary focus was on a more measured, peaceful existence, one that prioritized the people he loved and safeguarded the precious stability he had created. Though he never closed the door entirely on the possibility of future projects, his choices reflected a firm desire for privacy and serenity. His presence at fan conventions became increasingly rare, but when he did make an appearance, he was met with overwhelming gratitude. Even though he was no longer taking on leading roles, audiences still revered him for the joy he had brought to their screens as MacGyver and Colonel O'Neill. For Anderson, these events felt like small celebrations of a life's work, a chance to say thanks without the pressure of a high-profile career to maintain. It was a graceful and self-assured exit from an industry that often leaves little room for gentle departures. Even after leaving the limelight, his legacy would continue to shine in remarkable ways. Richard Dean Anderson's journey didn't end when he bowed out of Hollywood. In many ways, it had only just begun. Freed from the demands of round-the-clock shooting schedules, he found new purpose in causes that resonated with the compassionate spirit he had shown on screen. Chief among these is his involvement with the Waterkeeper Alliance, a global movement dedicated to safeguarding the world's waterways. Drawing attention to environmental issues, Anderson has used his platform to promote sustainable practices and to educate communities about the importance of preserving our planet's natural resources. Even though he no longer commands a leading role on television, his activism and philanthropy demonstrate how deeply he cares about leaving the world a better place than he found it. Despite his retreat from the limelight, Anderson makes the occasional appearance at fan conventions. It's in these welcoming spaces that he reconnects with audiences who, years after MacGyver and Stargate SG-1 ended, still hold those shows close to their hearts. Signing autographs, posing for photos, and sharing behind-the-scenes anecdotes, he embraces these events as opportunities to express gratitude. His fans, in turn, appreciate the sincerity and warmth he brings. Many describe feeling inspired by the values his characters championed: creativity, loyalty, and a resolute belief in doing what's right. Over the years, Anderson's real estate decisions have reflected a desire for simplicity and harmony with nature. Though he owns multiple properties, including a notable ranch where he can enjoy quiet mornings and star-filled nights, the unifying theme is his quest for a peaceful, family-entry life. Vast open spaces, lush gardens, and scenic overlooks align with the ethos that has guided him since leaving Hollywood: the belief that true contentment isn't about flash or status, but about nurturing oneself and those you love. Meanwhile, the influence of MacGyver and Stargate SG-1 has never truly waned. MacGyver remains synonymous with ingenious problem-solving, so much so that, to MacGyver, something has become part of everyday language. Fans from around the world share personal stories of how they've used creative fixes inspired by the show. Similarly, Stargate SG-1 endures as a milestone in sci-fi television, lauded for its exploration of moral dilemmas, strong team dynamics, and larger-than-life adventures. Even as new sci-fi universes emerge, Colonel Jack O'Neill's dry wit and unyielding courage continue to captivate new generations, discovering the series on streaming platforms. Critics and admirers alike celebrate Anderson for bringing depth, humanity, and a touch of humor to every role he tackled. Whether you're talking about an ingenious pacifist hero or a weary soldier staring down intergalactic threats, his characters were relatable and always grounded in empathy. In fan circles and pop culture retrospectives, his name remains a byword for authenticity, loyalty, and creativity. While industry accolades are often fleeting, the devotion of millions worldwide, who continue to watch, discuss, and draw inspiration from his work, stands as a testament to a legacy that transcends mere entertainment. So what does Richard Dean Anderson's story teach us about following your heart?